Kia ora to a few others.
Hello.
Kia ora, Bill.
Dawn and Corin and Gary and to Roger. And yeah, I think
Okay. Well,
Kirsty.
Thank
Sorry.
you everybody for coming to this meeting of the Cambridge Community Board for April. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, Madam Chair, we've got one from Councillor Webber.
Okay. Would somebody like to move the apologies, please? Be received.
Happy to move, Madam
I'll
Chair.
move them.
Thank you. And someone seconded it.
I'll second that.
Great. All those in favour?
Aye.
Great. Carried. Okay. Disclosure of members' interests. Anybody got anything they should be disclosing for this meeting? No. Great. Late items.
So, Madam Chair, we've got two late items today. So under 9.12 of the standing orders, the Cambridge Community Board can discuss items of business that are not on the agenda, which cannot be delayed as long as there's good reason. The item was not included on the agenda and cannot be delayed to the next meeting. Sorry, doubled that one up. The scheduling of dates for the Cambridge Community Board Rule Tour can't be delayed, as planning will have to be completed and confirmed by the time of the next meeting if the proposed dates are confirmed by the Community Board tonight. And there is also the chairperson's report was the other late item, which the reason why it's cannot be delayed to the next one is there's a section in there about reimbursing of an invoice to Waikato District Council for the lights, the Ukraine lights. So both of these require a decision to be made. And from there, staff recommend the Cambridge Community Board accepts the Cambridge Community Board Rule Tour 2022 and the chairperson's report as late items.
Okay, would somebody like to move that the order of the meeting be confirmed?
Hang on, Madam Chair, we still need to receive the accept the late items first.
Okay, righto. Can we move that the late items be accepted then?
Happy to second that with Alana, who waved first, I think.
Okay, I'm just going to go and switch to a gallery view so I can see you all. Okay, all those in favour then? Okay, looks like carried. Right, now we go to the confirmation of the order of the meeting be confirmed. I'm happy to move that. Would someone like to second that?
I'll second that, Sue.
Thank you, Joe. All those in favour? Carried. Okay, now we have the public forum. We have Bill Harris of the Cambridge Jockey Club joining us this evening. So we'll hand over to Bill.
Kia ora, Sue. And my apologies for earlier on, when I missed you at the top of my screen. So kia ora to you. And I realise that I've, we've got, I think it's 5 minutes to speak. And if I might also introduce Andy Cruikshank, who's the CEO for the Cambridge Jockey Club, and make an acknowledgement to Dawn here, because we initially wrote to Dawn with a proposal that we wanted to put some lighting along Racecourse Road to make it safer for the horses, the jockeys, and the public who are driving up and down Racecourse Road. And the Jockey Club, in its wisdom, decided that the lights were on Cambridge Jockey Club grounds, so we would expend the money and put those lights in. But took Dawn's suggestion of perhaps coming along to the community board and having a bit of a discussion about another matter that has concerned us for some time, and that's the speed limits around the racecourse. So if it's okay with you, Sue, I'd like to hand over at this point to Andy, who's got a bit of a presentation for the community board, and he will go over what we're seeking to have raised with the community board tonight.
Okay, all right. Well,
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill.
And thanks everyone for giving us the opportunity to have a quick chat. I'm just going to share a screen with you, so hopefully this works. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so that just outlines the area that we're proposing to have the speed limit reduced from 80 to 50 kilometres an hour. And the reason for that is between the hours of, so the track opens at 4:30 a.m. every morning, and motorists driving, we're not saying that they exceed the 80k speed limit, but even at that speed, horses crossing the road, the area is not, as Bill correctly pointed out, is not well lit, and there have been a couple of near misses with horses crossing the road. If you'll notice on Abergaildy Way, there are properties there that come across the road into that training track there, and also right through pretty much to Forest Road on Racecourse Road. The horses are travelling along that side of the road and crossing the road. As I say, there have been a couple of near misses, and we're looking at being a little bit more proactive and getting things in place before there is an incident where someone's hurt or killed. And there have been incidents overseas, and in particular Australia, where a rider was killed by a vehicle hitting his horse, and obviously there was charges laid under occupational health and safety. So we're trying to avoid a situation like that. Whether the speed limit, is reduced for a temporary period between the hours of, say, 4 and 10 a.m., 4 a.m. and 10 a.m., 7 days a week, that would be a proposal that we would support. Additionally, we could look at sort of speed bumps or something just to slow the motorists down, because you get a dark horse or a bay-coloured horse crossing the road, and they're very, very difficult to see until you ride upon them. So, but yeah, we want to front foot it, be proactive, and address the issue before we have an incident where something occurs and goes wrong for both the club and the public. You know, a member of the public could easily be killed along there. So Racecourse Road is a notorious shortcut, if you like, from people in the sort of Vogel to Victoria Street area. Rather than going along Victoria Street to the motorway on-ramp, they'll shoot through Racecourse Road and enter on the old State Highway 1 at that area. So it is busy through that area. So that would be our proposal, and we would hope that the community board would support that in taking it to council. The club has been proactive in the past in addressing issues with ponies and horses sort of walking along Racecourse Road, and has constructed an area, sort of a barrier between the road and the horses, so that it is a little bit safer. And as I say, we want to front foot this rather than be the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff.
So if I might just add a couple of things. One is that coming up to winter, there's quite a bit of fog around. The other thing is that we, without checking, we believe there's probably an increase in traffic as urbanisation comes out towards the track as well. So as Andy said, trying to make it safe for the public and for the users of the track. So I don't know if we've managed to utilise all 5 minutes of that, Sue, but we do have a letter to the council which expresses all of this as well, and we're happy to provide you with copies of that, or we can direct it straight to the council.
Okay, well, thanks very much. I think you put a really good case for it. My daughter did some track riding a few years ago from the track, so I know what it's like. And I also know that the road itself is a bit of a rat run from the expressway into the parts of Cambridge North. And so I think we've probably got a good case there. So yes, I think we'd certainly support you taking it to the council and asking for a road speed reduction. Anybody else got a comment to make there?
Yeah,
Elise?
I do. Please. Thanks, Bill and Andy. I just had a question about how, and please forgive my ignorance, I'm not familiar with the track racing scene, but you mentioned the risk is of the horses crossing the road. Am I right in understanding that? Are they crossing that at certain designated points? Is there a need for them to cross at multiple places? Could there be a solution where they crossed at a designated place that could then have more sufficient signage, lighting, and restricted speed zone, as opposed to that whole quite large section of road? Interested in your thoughts or insights onto that?
So,
Andy, you want?
yeah. So the neighbouring properties particularly on Racecourse Road, there's no boom there for them to. So a lot of those properties are owned by trainers, so they basically cross the road where they are, and there's multiple different entrances on the opposite side of the road into a laneway, if you like, which enables them. It's a barrier that I talked about, which enables them to sort of walk up and down to one of the main points of entry. And similarly on Abergeldy Way, a number of those properties are owned by thoroughbred trainers. So that would be difficult. What I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Difficult in that they exit their property directly, cross the road directly opposite their property to then get onto that safe walking area. So there's one side of the road is unsafe for them to walk along.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have restricted the entrances on our side, so so and that's, I think, a key in terms of our trying to operate as safely as we possibly can.
Yeah, there's only two entrances actually into the horse float yard, and then there's another entrance that sort of leads almost straight onto the track.
Okay, so the main issue is horses crossing from properties where the horses are stabled to that safe area. How many of those crossings do you think that would exist at the moment?
Oh, there's multiple, because most of those properties along there. So
not so many on our side, but yeah, there's a number of the properties on the other side. Yeah, and the other thing is that we've also got a pool that is used for exercising as well. So where that is, we have we have been quite strict in regards to how people cross there, but it's used by quite a few of the not just by the thoroughbred racing industry, but it was also used by the trotting, and I think it's also used by equestrian and in polo, and I think even dogs have used it at times, Andy.
Yeah.
So we offer that community support.
Well, I appreciate you wanting to prevent any serious incidents. I think that's admirable. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise.
Thanks.
Can I just add something there? Just concurring with you, Bill and Andy, about the massive increase in traffic along that section of Racecourse Road. I've been cycling that every Wednesday practically for the past 4 or 5 years, and it's really noticeable. And it's become a really significant sort of risk area, the interaction between horses, cyclists, cars, and horse floats. So I think your idea of a time-limited speed restriction could work really well. So I fully support. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
And Sue, sorry. I completely understand the safety risks. I'm out at about the same time in the morning walking my dog, so I know it's dark, it's foggy. I guess the staff would know more about that road in terms of what we can do with it. I'm guessing it's probably considered to be a rural road, and how that impacts on speed limits, I'm not sure. Just thinking outside the box, I know a lot of people walking their dogs early in the morning have little lights that they can put on their collar, things like that. I don't know if there's anything along those lines available for the horses that would help, but just a suggestion. I definitely appreciate the safety risks, and we don't want any accidents, so if we can help support you to get something safer in place, then definitely support it.
The jockeys certainly wear lights when they're working out on the track, but they tend to be forward and back facing as opposed to side facing. And of course, as they're crossing the road, they're more side. The helmets are more on the side than they are on the front or the back. So,
It's an interesting point, though, Alana. Even like a reflective strip that somehow went along the side of the horse in those dark hours of the morning would make a huge difference to their visibility. Makes a huge difference to cyclists' visibility in the dark.
And again, jockeys use high vis, but it's it's not it's still not ideal, and that's why we're raising it with you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good.
Does anybody have anything else to say? I'd like to say that I think it's really important that we support Jockey Club in this, and hopefully the roading people of council will be able to come up with a solution for you. We certainly don't want anybody getting hurt there, and we appreciate that it's a very, very busy road, and it's just getting busier, I think, because there's lots of traffic coming. There's also Peak Road, I think it is, that comes across as well, which doesn't help. So hopefully something can be done. I don't know if Dawn wishes to say anything about this at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and kia ora. Absolutely, please do send through the letter that you've prepared. We do have some limitations around the administration of speed limits. Certainly the expectation was that the government would have released a new speed limits rule by now, I guess. But yeah, certainly let's get together and have a kōrero around this and see what we can do. So I don't know, I see also Brian Hudson online, whether he's got any further comment.
Yeah, no, I certainly appreciate the difficulties there, and when I was at Waipā previously, I think I was one of the first ones who worked with the club there to put up the first barrier down at the Abergaldi end of the road, which caused a stir at the time that we were using that road space to create a safe space for horses to move along the road. And I see, since that time, more permanent barrier has gone in the road corridor to provide that separation between horses and traffic. But certainly the club has grown and a lot more trainers around that area, and so more horses are all wanting to make their way to the track. And yeah, the interesting thing we have around setting speed limits is that we've got to make sure we set a speed limit that we believe is going to be reasonably complied with. And so because it's a very open rural area, if we just put up a 50k sign, probably most motorists wouldn't recognise what the issue was that was demanding an urban sort of speed limit in a rural area, and so they probably wouldn't obey the speed limit. And so we have to look at ways of changing the environment whether it was part of the day or all of the day, changing the road environment so it didn't look like an open, straight, speedy sort of rural road, to encourage vehicles to drive at a slower speed. And I know we have variable speed limits for schools at that sort of defined time of the day, but that's about a 15-minute time slot when the buses and parents are arriving to drop off kids. It's not for a long period of time, and don't know if the current rules allow for temporary or variable speed limits like that for something like a club like this. So there's quite a few unknowns, but I'm sure there are solutions. Council and the club have worked together in the past to come up with solutions, and I'm sure we could work together again to come up to look at it again and come up with solutions. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Has anybody else got any comments? Just talking about signage, have we got those signs that perhaps show a horse or something that can be put on along the roads so that people understand there are horses likely to be using the roads?
Yeah, I think there probably are some signs here at the moment, but it is possible to have active warning signs. So these are signs that can be turned on by the club at certain times of the day, and they would illuminate so that motorists would, because it's not illuminated with a flashing light or whatever all the time, but only when horses are moving, then motorists would perhaps take more notice of them and be more vigilant. Because they can see the sign flashing because something is happening on the road at that time. So yeah, all of those potential solutions could be looked at. There's more than one way to deal with. I was going to say skin a cat, but that's not the right terminology these days, is it?
Oh, thank you for that, Brian. Does anybody else have any other questions or like to say anything? Bill?
I'd just like to say thank you to the Cambridge Community Board for hearing us, and I guess for the support. So yeah, I thought I would stay on a little bit longer. I think Andy might be wishing to leave, and just have a listen as one of the Kānohi reps for council. And I haven't yet had an opportunity to sit in on a Cambridge Community Board. So if it's okay with you, Sue, I'll stay on for a little bit longer.
You're most welcome to. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Andy.
All right. Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks for coming.
Ta-ra.
Thank you. Yes, no, so that's hopefully something can be done about that one. It's a bit of an issue, really. I'm just working through the agenda now. We're up to minutes of the previous meeting. Can we move to that? That's pages 9 to 13 of your agenda.
Happy to move, Madam Chair, that we those minutes.
Yep, I'll second.
Okay, does anybody have anything they wish to raise that might have come up in the minutes? No? Okay. All right, well then, would somebody like to move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of March as circulated with the agenda be confirmed as a true and correct record?
Elise has done this and Joe has seconded.
Okay, all those in favour? It looks like everybody's doing an aye. Yeah, carried. Okay, the draft annual plan.
Madam Chair, if you just bear with me while I pull up the presentation for Liz to speak to.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Right. Hey, thanks very much for allowing us to come and talk to you. So Kirsty, as she has said, we have a presentation which we'll run through, and happy to, perhaps at the end of it, we'll come back into gallery view and we can certainly have an opportunity for questions. So as many of you know, we are at the point now where we're consulting with our community on our annual plan, which will start, of course, 1 July this year. So yeah, I'll let you read the bullet points here, but this is, of course, an annual kind of check-in with the community and, of course, community board about, some of the projects that we've got planned for the 22-23 year, and just making sure that, I guess, everyone's happy with what the actual plan is and what the budget is for the year too. Probably fair to say that we're very on track with what we had planned in our long-term plan. So you might recall I came and spoke to you last year when we were having a look at our long-term plan, our 10-year plan. So we're going to be going into year 2, of course, this coming July. And even though, we're kind of in, well, it's probably fair to say we've had a very unsettling year or two with COVID and things, we're largely on track, I guess, with what we had planned anyway. But, who knows what the future holds? And I guess we're just being really careful. And we are seeing costs increases across the board. We're seeing high interest rates starting to play out now. So, understanding all these pressures. But in saying that, we've also got to ensure that what we do is of quality and of course, what our community expects in terms of infrastructure and things like that as well. Still got to keep the town ticking over. So, look, as I said, not too far astray from our long-term plan year 2. So we proposed a general rates increase of 4.4%. So going out with a proposed rates increase 4.3%. So not too far off there. And I guess just a note, there is an average rates increase as well. And this is how we intend to spend. Of course, this is something you're probably quite familiar with. It's quite a good way to demonstrate just how we do spend. So community services and facilities there, obviously 30.6% is the big one. And yeah, it's sort of detailed how the rest is outlined. But the big question, of course, a lot of people ask me is, what are we likely to spend on capital projects? So 175 million is what we intend to spend next year. Right, so you just want to outline some of the key changes on what we're doing with our capital works program. So there is a change, actually a couple of changes to the timing of our capital works program, and I think it's kind of important to kind of explain why. I guess there's some projects, individual projects that have been pushed back just a wee bit, just by a year. These largely relate to new residential areas, and probably quite obvious where they are in Cambridge, but also industrial areas as well. So we're talking about a lot of the physical works program, all the stuff that goes underground, in particular, the water and wastewater infrastructure. So we've just pushed some of our timing out there just by a year. And also the Te Awamutu Parongia Cycleway, that's also been deferred a year. So this is something that's been on the cards for a while now. That cycleway, and the residents over on the western side, of course, are very excited to have that underway. But there's just been a small delay just while we're working through some of the landowner agreements and things. Now, you may have read, of course, the contamination, or the cost of the contamination in our recycling, that we see in the blue bins that we put out every couple of weeks. So there is has been a bit of an extra cost associated with that. It's been well reported. So $170,000 there. So, increasing the targeted recycling rate, something we've had to consider. But also, a little bit disappointing with Waka Kotahi, our urban mobility program. So we have $10 million spread over 10 years, so $1 million each year, and half of that, what we had hoped Waka Kotahi would be co-funding. Now, it's not to say that they're not necessarily going to not co-fund for the whole 10-year period, but we'll have to keep working on them to ensure that they do come to the party along some way, or we need to look at how we might fill the gap there. But certainly have just highlighting that at this time. So key projects, talked about the Te Awamutu Parongia cycle route. Te Arawai, which of course the old Bunnings building in Te Awamutu, we're still working on the design and concept phase for the new facility there. You may recall at the long-term plan, we had a number of young youth come and talk to us about skate parks, and in particular we had some students from Cambridge High come and talk to us about Cambridge skate park. So you'll know that we've been doing some consultation and looking to, and will be improving the Cambridge skate park. There's other industrial growth related projects and structure plans that we're working on. And also the wastewater treatment plant, the one in Cambridge. It will be no surprise to you that, we've been working quite hard, and we've got quite a bit planned for the next year as well. Lastly, the community spatial plan, which Kirsty has been working very hard on, and a number of staff, our 30-year roadmap. So we'll be going out to the community not too far away just to talk and consult about what our community's aspirations are for that. A couple of other projects I was just going to touch on, actually. Town Hall, Cambridge Town Hall. Of course, we have the trust now in play, and we are expecting that they will come to us with a wish list. I'm sure there'll be a wish list. So that will probably have some dollars attached to it. So we will need to consider that. You'll recall during the LTP as well, the sports soccer fields actually at John Kirkhoff Park, council did allocate some money to upgrade the soccer fields there. And just a reminder too that we will be painting the high level bridge in Cambridge later on this year. So those are other sort of key projects that are going to be happening. Now this this particular slide talks about what you get for your rates. So what we've been doing with the community, actually, because we've done a number of these Zoom sessions across the district, is that you can actually go onto council's website, as you can see, and you can have a look at what you will pay as a rate payer once you put your residential address in there. So if you're a residential rate payer or a rural or a lifestyle block, you can actually, there are differences, of course, in what you pay. So you can actually specifically get to see that. So yeah, the web address is on there. And as we've been doing these Zooms, we've been popping it into the chat function of Zoom meetings as well, so that people can check it out. Now, so time to kind of wrap this up, but just after Easter, we'll be closing submissions. And of course, this takes effect from 1 July, so councillors will be working through all the submissions and everything, obviously just prior to that. But yeah, really interested in your feedback and, you know, what things you think, what extra things. Everyone's always got a list of what they would like to add to the annual plan. So I'm really interested in what you feel is important, what's a priority or perhaps not a priority. And yeah, we can take all that feedback on board, that's for sure. Right, so yeah, back to the gallery view. Happy to take any questions that you may have. Hello, Ken. So you've just popped up there. So yeah, I've got there's a great yeah, we've got a good team of staff online as well. So if there's any questions, specific questions, then they'll be more than happy to help answer those as well.
Thank you, Liz. Does anybody have any questions for Liz or any of the staff? No.
I'm interested in. I'm actually in. One of the questions I was going to ask of you guys actually was around the I mean, during COVID, and of course we're still on red light. You know, yeah, kind of. It's really been quite a unique environment to try and consult with the community. So we've gone out with these Zoom meetings. And we had one today. We did Parongia at lunchtime today. We've gone out to the Waikato business community. There's a rural one later on this week. I believe it's tomorrow actually at midday. So yeah, interested in your thoughts too around, you know, how we can better consult with the community in these trying times. So if you've got any ideas around that, please let me know. But yeah, has been a tricky one this time, that's for sure.
Hey, Sue, I've got questions.
Yeah, Mike. Yep.
Mike.
Thanks, Liz. I've actually got 3, so bear with me. Just first, a clarification. Your total rates requirement is 7.2%, which is net rates plus growth. Does the growth mean what you're going to get from population growth? Is it a natural increase in rate stakes, or is that like a sort of an inflation?
Right, Ken is putting his hand up, so he's really good at explaining this, by the way. Yep.
Oh, okay. Actually, I hope you're not not talking me up too much, Liz. Yeah, and look through Chair Sue. I'll certainly respond to that question. Good evening, community board. Good to see you all. Hey, look, so just in relation to that, look, it is the natural growth, Mike. So this is new properties coming on stream, and well, in some cases, brand new properties if it's been a subdivision. In some cases, building improvements, etc. So so obviously we bring the additional capital value from those properties on, and in fact, things like the uniform annual charge, etc. That all comes to play as well with if it is a new property. So so essentially we've got the benefit of that growth coming through, and then our headline number is the 4.3%, which is after that natural growth, because what we're looking to tell the story of there is that if you are already an existing ratepayer with no change to your property, what is the average increase in rate going to be for you? Does that work? Does that explanation help?
Perfectly understands, and I thought that'd be the case. I was just seeking clarification. Hey, Sue, chuck me off if I'm hogging it. If anyone else wants, just
no, that's
fine. To get off, because I do have 2 more. To you, Liz, the town hall, the Cambridge Town Hall, expecting a wish list, which is not surprising. Just can you remind me in the LTP what funding was booked to the Cambridge Town Hall?
Very little. Ken wants to answer this one as well.
Look, actually, perhaps through through Sue as chair, and perhaps contest that just a little bit. So look, I guess
we have varying degrees on this one. We have differing opinions.
Look, to be fair, I think there's two streams of funding involved. So essentially, the intention is that that with the Town Hall Trust or Town Hall Community Trust coming on board, any dollars in the LTP will go across to them, and they'll control those dollars. So obviously in the 10-year picture, we've got the normal operational expense to keep the town hall ticking along on a day-to-day business as usual basis. We've got that. We've also got some capital budgets and some renewal budgets. Those are all in place. They will go over. And then actually, I haven't got the figure right in front of me, Mike, but there was a good dollop of additional funding as well for a major redevelopment, and I think that was in the order of $3.8 million.
Yeah.
Actually, Liz, you may be able to correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think it's in that.
It was slightly more, but we've spent some already. Yep.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So $3.8 million for a major redevelopment, and the intention was always, in regard to that $3.8 million, that would potentially have to be supplemented by fundraising effort. I mean, it very much depends on how the trust gets on with its consultation with the community, and in terms of what they do want to do there. But that was the amount that was that is in the long-term plan already, and potentially available for any significant capital redevelopment there.
And do you have an agreement in place with the trusts now? I seem to remember you do now.
Oh, so and again through Chair Sue, so look, under development. So we have a working draft of a lease and services agreement with the trust. That's been backwards and forwards 2 or 3 times. We're actually meeting with the trust on a fortnightly basis to get that signed up. It's certainly my hope that in the next month or 2 we'll get that signed up so that the trust can be fully operational. We can hand over what needs to be handed over to them. Certainly before 30 June. That's definitely the intention there, and we're making very, very good progress.
And they will have control of that capital budget.
So
go over.
So look, they will. I mean, there are some constraints around that because, of course, $3.8 million is a huge amount of ratepayer money. So essentially, essentially there are some controls around that. So the expectation is that the trust will engage with the Cambridge community, and in effect, they've done a lot of pre-thinking about what that engagement will look like. They will then bring a plan back to council, and of course, council does have that money sitting in the LTP. So look, it's not like we're just handing them $3.8 million. That $3.8 million will be made available once we've got an appropriate plan in place for the expenditure of that money.
Cool. So just one more, and then I'll be quiet. Yes. Overall, if anyone else has got their hand up. Liz, again to you, the 175 million capital expenditure budget for the financial year. How confident are you about the ability to deliver on that, given the extreme inflationary environment in the construction sector and so on? It's brutal out there.
Yes, we're not. Obviously, that's a real concern. If we break that down. I guess the 176, so about 120 of that is to meet additional demand. 30 million to improve our levels of service, and another 25 million to replace existing assets. So that just gives you some rough numbers as to what that capital is kind of allocated to. I guess the tricky part right now is there's still a lot of unknowns, and it feels like every time we do go out for tender that it comes back and sometimes extra money is actually required. But I guess that is our best guess. But that, I mean, I'll open it up to the group managers here. But I mean, I think we're reasonably confident that we can deliver that program for the money that we've allocated.
Yeah. So look. Perhaps I'll have the first go, but then, very, very keen to hear Dawn's thoughts on this, or in fact, I think the board should hear Dawn's thoughts on this, because she, of course, is responsible for spending the big part of that $175 million. But look, Mike, you quite rightly identify some real issues in that space. Not only do we have a highly inflationary environment, but we've also got an environment where there's some real supply issues potentially as well. So so both those things are of quite real concern, not only to council but of course to the entire community. This is absolutely not a problem unique to Waipara. It's right across the New Zealand economy. So look, we are doing some pretty good work in that space. I mean, you may be aware that council has a project delivery unit that's been in place for quite some time, that reports through to Dawn. So that project delivery unit, which is headed up by Peter Thompson, is working quite closely with our procurement advisor, Adele Bird, and they're working through a whole lot of issues, I suppose, or potential considerations about how we do procurement in this space, and how we deliver the projects in the space. So so look, they've socialised that little plan with the executive team. We've actually given our audit and risk committee some insight into that plan as well. So they are working through that in terms of how we get through that. So that's things like some prioritisation of projects. How do we prioritise which is more important than the other? Looking at that contingency space. Looking at a whole bunch of other things that Dawn, you are very welcome to clarify. But look, the feeling is that we will be able to deliver that sort of program. But look, there will be challenges along the way, very much in that supply space.
Thanks. Through Madam Chair, I think Ken's given a great summary in terms of the innovative thinking that's being applied to this, in terms of trying to come up with ways to best address the challenges that we face. The other aspect is that I think it's about $30 million worth of work this year that's unable to be completed this year and being deferred to next year. And in some of those cases, we have got contracts or infrastructure agreements in place, in terms of having as much certainty as we can around costs associated with those. But you're absolutely right. It's something that is being actively thought about, and as I say, trying to come up with innovative ways, early engagement with contractors and the like, or maybe having to purchase materials ahead of contracts and the like, to try and mitigate some of those risks.
Has anybody got anything else they'd like to say?
If I may, through Madam Chair.
Yes, Jim, go ahead.
I'm not sure whether it's to Liz or Roger, but just in regards to the transport around town. A while ago, it was talked about that there would be a new plan come with a new bus system going past the high school out that way. Where is that at? Because I got asked again at the weekend by some elderly people over in the Oaks what's happening.
So this is the extension of the Cambridge to Hamilton service, operated by a regional council. So the plan is to extend the service through to Cambridge High School, and that is now funded and has been approved and will happen soon.
As of?
Dawn, my understanding, 1 July.
Yes, to a point. I guess one of the challenges is that regional council haven't been able to proceed with their new contract. So they were proposing to have a new services contract in place a wee while ago. So they've had to extend their current contract, and including the new services was seen as a part of the new contract, because that enables the price tension around those extension and increased frequency of services. So there have been some delays delays. We're now actually looking at early next year for that contract to be in place, the tendering happening second half of this calendar year, and contract commencement early next year. So it's been a real shame in terms of those delays, but yeah, unfortunately it's later than we were hoping for.
Thank you. Yeah, Roger, you want to say something?
Yeah, just to add a little bit. With Liz, I attended the Regional Connections meeting on Monday, and the Regional Council is actually conducting a review of their rural services, particularly over the peak times where they're experiencing quite a delay in the performance of that service as it gets particularly into Hamilton and getting into some of that traffic congestion. And so the object of that service is to provide as fast and as efficient service between the two centres of Cambridge and TA with the centre of Hamilton. And I think the traffic congestion that's occurring in Hamilton is detracting from their objective. And I think they're starting to experience the same kind of effect from the peak hour congestion in Cambridge. So I think that is expected, I think in, Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, by the end of next month, that review?
The review was within a month, yes. So yes. Yeah, we're hoping to see that by the end of May, but I'm crossing my fingers and things like that at the moment. Everything seems to experience a delay at the moment, but yeah, it should be around then.
Yeah, and they may at that point decide that there's some rationalisation of the length and route of the service on both sides, both ends of the route.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Elise, you could say something.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Sue. Liz, just a question regarding the urban mobility program. How much does the council rely on that co-funding? So when it says they are not going to be able to co-fund it, is that a 50-50 split? What was the split there that Waikato potentially has lost for that program of work?
Yeah, so it is a real shame actually that we've ended up in this sort of situation. But I'm not necessarily, I'm not completely, I don't feel like that. We're right at the end of it. I'd really like to think that we can bounce back and that monies from Waka Kotahi will actually, be possible going forward. So look, basically it was about 51% that we do get from Waka Kotahi, but what we're planning on now is out of the 10 million, we are allocating about 3 million to Cambridge and about 2.4 for Te Awamutu. So that's kind of the monies that we will have going forward. And again, as I said, hope to be able to bolster that up with monies that will come through from Waka Kotahi in the future or from any other kind of funding sources. We need to go out and fundraise. That's always an opportunity. So so I'm not going to let that get me down. I'm still anticipating that we'll deliver a $10 million program in 10 years. That's certainly my ambition.
Sorry, Liz, is that 3 million that you've referenced for Cambridge just for that period of 2021 to 24, or is that for the whole long-term plan for this piece of work?
Look, to be honest, we're just sort of prioritising the routes, and we haven't. I don't think a lot of that's really set in stone at this point. But in terms of broad terms, the 10 million at the moment, we've got 3.2 for Cambridge and 2, as I said, for Te Awamutu. But in terms of the length of time and when that will get spent will depend on how quick the community wants to prioritise and agree on where that money should be spent, because we've gone out now with a new reference group. So that's just been created. It's a community group to actually really look at prioritising where that money should be spent and where the routes should be going. So we've had our first meeting. In fact, we've got our second meeting coming up, and lots of really good community members have jumped on board the Cambridge group, and we've also got some Te Amutu folk as well. So yeah, it's early days for that community reference group, and I'm really looking forward to seeing their input and kind of really assisting as to where the priorities should be. And look, there'll be people challenging some of the suggestions that staff are putting forward. We're starting to see that now, so that's great, because I think as a community we need to decide all together what we want to do.
Thank you. Roger.
Sorry, so if I may, it's just now losing that Waka Kotahi funding, that 3 million seems like a really pocket change for the kind of changes that we need in Cambridge. Is the funding allocation open for kind of adjustment down the track at future annual plans?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, councillors can choose to bolster that back up to 10 million. That's certainly something that can be done. But also, I think the door's open, to go back to Waka Kotahi and continue to advocate, to fund again. So the door's never closed, I don't think. And it's just, look, it's a matter of us pestering them and just putting our best foot forward. But I think the other thing too that's really important is that I've seen with a lot of government agencies, when you've got a project what we call shovel ready or ready to go. So if your planning is done and you have done all the homework, you've got community agreement, you've got all the consents and all the things, Brian is nodding, I think Waka Kotahi look upon that kind of planning very favourably. And so, I just think we just want to be ready. Whenever a fund or an opportunity comes up, we be ready, we pounce on it, like I say, hopefully we'll get some positiveness from them going forward. Did you want to mention anything else, Brian?
Yeah, I just to say I agree fully with what you've said. And if we look at our history, in very recent times, so $5.5 million from central government for the Te Awa Cycleway, another $500,000 for the Ohaupo central crossing and school improvements there. Another $500,000 for a footbridge beside the highway in Te Amutu to get walking and cycling working well there from central government. So we have got a track record of delivering good projects and picking up subsidy from the government when the opportunity arises. So I think we can be quite optimistic about the next few years, developing our plans and putting in our funding requests. And remember that this government is also looking to encourage more walking and cycling and passenger transport use, and has got a big emissions reduction plan that they are going to have to spend to get people to stop driving their cars everywhere. So I think, the opportunity is there for us, and we'll be ready for it.
Great, thank you. Roger, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just an interesting point came out of the Urban Mobility Reference Group that when we last met, and that was, if you look at that new designated cycleway along Hamilton Road, that's about 1 kilometre of cycleway, and the cost of that was $1.5 million. So you're quite right that at the initial look, then that fund that we've got has got a limit to what it can achieve. But I think Brian's quite right there. If we've got our plans in place, and if there is available central government or regional government funding that comes out of Waka Kotahi funding, then having ready plans able to be put on the table gives us a strong point. But the other thing, of course, is if council is committed to urban mobility, both walking, cycling and public transport, then it could well be that at the next LTP that the voice of the community says that we want more resources being applied to urban mobility. So that's the opportunity that there is for us to start to look at increased funding. I can give you the assurance that on that Urban Mobility Governance Group, both Liz and I are members, and there are 3 other councillors, and all are committed to seeing us improve our walking and cycling mode shift in Cambridge as much as possible.
Thank you, Roger. Does anybody else have anything to say on this one?
I was just going to say, it just shows you just how important it is when you've got new subdivisions, growth, to get those cycleways in right from the very start. It's very hard to retrospect something, and we saw that, the cost of doing something that, of these cycleways and things in our urban communities now. So yeah, going forward, I know that happens. We retrofit those cycleways, walkways into any new growth areas, and I think that's really smart, and I think that's really going to be it's going to serve our community well, and it's going to be very efficient use of money as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's a good point you make, Liz. When the St Kilda subdivision first went in, there was intention to create a path that would be used perhaps by the high school students to get onto Swain Road to get to the high school. Well, that path has never been properly developed, and as a consequence, it's hardly used, and it seems such a shame that a path that was ready to go just wasn't done, and it's just not used. But plenty of other people use it for big walks, so that's something, I suppose. Right.
So could I make a quick comment?
Yeah.
I just wanted to let the community board know, in case I hadn't, that I'm also on that reference group. So if any of you have any feedback or any ideas or anything that you want me to mention to them, you just need to let me know, because it's a great group and it's going to be, I think, really effective. So if anyone's got any ideas, just get in touch.
Great. Thank you very much, Jo. That's great. Okay. So moving on, I'd like to move that the board receive the draft annual plan, and then that the Cambridge Community Board provide a submission to the draft annual plan. So I'd like to move that. Can we have a seconder, please? No seconders? Thank you, Jo. All those in favour? Don't fall over yourselves. How many hands was that? I couldn't see them all at once. Yeah, great. We'll take that as carried. Thank you very much. The next item is the schedule of fees and charges. So we need to receive the draft schedule of fees and charges and perhaps make a submission. So Kirsty, you ready to speak to this, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm really just asking that the report be taken as read. You'll see that this has been out for public consultation since the beginning of March. So it is due to close at the end of this week. So quite a short turnaround if the community board wishes to make a submission. In terms of changes to fees and in terms of what's proposed, not significant changes. There is an inflationary increase that has been applied to most fees, and some larger increases in specific areas relating to building control, cemeteries and recycling that has also been referenced through the annual plan presentation. And just to mention that the Cambridge Town Hall hire fees have been removed for the reason that was referenced earlier, that we have a community trust now managing that facility. So I'm happy to respond to any questions. I please just preface that and that I'm here probably by way of default. This process has been led by Graham Pollard from the strategy team, but yeah, I'll do my very best if I can.
I've got a question. One of the things that's here is under building consent fees, and for solar heating panels, to have an inspection, it's $446 is proposed. Shouldn't we be encouraging the use of solar panels? It's quite a chunk of money to be paying out when you're already paying for quite a bit for your panels. Just a query.
So you raise a valid point, Madam Chair, and the fees and charges have been carefully scrutinised by staff to ensure that they represent, fair and reasonable charges in terms of costs incurred by council in terms of time taken to undertake things such as inspections. I note that Tony Quickfall is on the line, and I know, Tony, that you don't lead that team, but whether there was anything further that you could add to that over and above what I've said.
Good evening, everyone. So I think all we can do really, Kirsty and Madam Chair, is take it back for consideration. It does, I wasn't aware that that fee was in there, and it does seem relatively high for what you'd expect to be an inspection of a solar panel. So I'm not familiar with it enough to be able to comment, but I think it's probably something we can go back via Graham to have a look at.
That's probably a good idea, because we had solar panels installed last year and we do not record, this is at our home, we don't actually record an inspection. In fact, my husband said to me, he's not quite sure what they would be inspecting.
So Madam Chair, I'll take that as an action. I'll follow up tomorrow and ensure that we come back through Kieran as soon as possible tomorrow to inform your submission.
Yeah, because I think, we should be encouraging the use of such things for reducing energy costs. So if we could do that, that would be good. Do anyone else have anything on this as well? Yeah, Elise.
Oh, it's okay. Was someone else put their hand up?
Sorry, I was just going to respond on that one, on that solar panel. So I mean, we are inviting submissions, obviously. That's not a fee that I'm familiar with, and none of the staff are. But look, by all means, if the community board feels strongly about that, please submit. But look, let that submission potentially be informed by some extra information which staff have offered. So so that's it from me. Thanks.
Yeah, Elise.
I had a few points to bring up, if that's okay. The first one was, and if I have overlooked this, my apologies, is the lighting of the clock tower and the town hall. Would that be classed as a fee that should be included in this schedule? Because I'm not sure I came across it in there.
Through you, Madam Chair, my understanding that isn't specifically included in the schedule of fees and charges as presented in draft form.
Should it be? My question is should it be? Is there a reason it's not?
Maybe
an answer to that.
Look again. Through Sue. Look, that's a really good question, Elise. So thank you for that. That fee is very much set in the recently adopted policy or guidelines, whatever we termed it as. So it's quite clearly set in there that the community group or whatever would pay for that. But look, in some ways, they probably actually should be in the fees and charges schedule as well. So look again. Let's let's take that on board either through your submission or staff will take that comment back, and we'll look to address that as part of confirming the fees and charges.
Thank you. My other comments are in regards to libraries. Surprise. I just noticed in the articulation of the fees, it talks about the cost of adult books, also talks about audiobooks and e-audiobooks, but ebooks aren't actually mentioned in the schedule of fees, even though I know they're free to borrow. So I just thought it was worth clarifying that adult books, including ebooks, are fee-free. Just a little side note, we could submit on that. The other thing I wanted to bring up and discuss with the board as well is potentially removing book borrowing fines for adults. I want to acknowledge that Waipā already has removed book borrowing fines for youth and children items, which is wonderful and is a really they've done that for many years now, so that's really ahead of the game there. but there's definitely a move across libraries within New Zealand and actually internationally to remove book borrowing fines as a way of improving access. There's Auckland libraries have eliminated their fines. Christchurch have just done it to theirs. Upper Hutt have removed theirs. A couple of other smaller libraries, Porirua is going to do it as well. That's within New Zealand. There's a couple of great articles that has come up in the last sort of 2 years that are really promoting the benefits of removing fines. I'm referencing an article just released in March this year by Professor Anne Golding, who's a professor in library and information management. She reports that removing fines is a way of improving access, and it doesn't actually change the behaviour of people returning their books to the library. So obviously most people in opposition of this move would say, well, why would somebody take their book back if there was no longer a fine? But there are other ways and other incentives that the libraries can use to make sure people return their books. But so far, the experience of these libraries who've removed the library fines have found that people are still returning their books. And in fact, their memberships have increased as a result of them removing the fines. I understand the fines generate income. I think it'd be worth finding out some more information specifically to Waipā District Council. But yeah, I can certainly point the board in the direction of these articles if you'd like, but I would like to open that up for discussion. I think it would be a positive move for Waipā District Council, and it's something that I think as a board I'd like to discuss with you and consider proposing in our submission on these fees and charges.
Well said, Elise. I support you all the way. One thing I did notice was we had on the bottom of page 43 of the schedule of fees and charges, we have audiobooks for non-print disabled patrons. This was a really interesting definition. I'm trying to decide what print disabled patrons are. Is this for people who are blind, or is this for people who are not able to read? Could somebody please tell me what we actually mean? Are we talking about those who, can't actually read, or those who are blind? I really don't know. I just thought this non-print disabled patrons was a really weird and almost patronising definition. Could somebody please explain?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't think any of the staff here can provide a definitive explanation as to the meaning of that word, but I will note that down and follow up with the library team tomorrow and ensure that through Kieran we come back to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's a really good idea, having, audiobooks. They're great. Lots of people use them, but just that definition just seems a bit, yeah.
Madam Chair, just to respond to Elisa's earlier comment around fine-free, had a comment from Brad Ward, Community Services Acting Manager, just that we are aware of that. Obviously, there's been a lot of media attention around that, and we'll continue to monitor that and fines, but there are no immediate plans to put that in place. So again,
perhaps we need to talk to Camille, Elise.
That's the point. That's the point of our submission, though, right, Gary?
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, it's something the staff haven't actioned, but we could have some influence in that space by saying we think it's valuable for the council. Doesn't mean it will happen, but that's our role, right?
Yeah, I'm just reaffirming that there are no plans at the moment, but
sure.
If you want to make that submission,
cool.
We did it last year, and I think we do it again.
And Brad reported that they have had record-breaking borrowing since those fees have been removed, and so I think it's a good thing removing the barriers for people to access the library. Okay, absolutely. Well, I'm happy through you, Madam Chair, to put together a submission around that, unless anyone else wants to would like to help me with that.
Yeah, I'm happy to help you with that, at least. That's great. Thank you. Okay, right, moving on. Anything else anyone's got on this?
So I just
Yes.
had a quick question about the tables and chairs permits and the fees related to that. Is that audited or checked up on at all to see whether people are actually putting out the numbers of furniture and things that they have their permits for?
So through you, Madam Chair, Brian's going to respond to that question because that falls within his area of responsibility.
Yes, so there certainly is some auditing. So at least a couple of times a year, my staff member is visiting all the cafes and checking up what's going on. And also when she's out and about, she's spotting new businesses that might come along and start or change what they're doing. So we do some auditing that finds those changes. But on the whole, we find that a lot of the businesses are established, been there for a number of years, and they've got their pattern of how they operate with chairs and tables and everything pretty well sorted. And for most of them, there's not a lot of change from week to week or month to month.
Okay, thank you. Brian,
Great, thank you.
While they're doing that, are they checking on, there's a couple of premises in town, there may be more, who've actually put little metal things in the pavement so that they can put out screens outside their premises. And these little metal bits, the screens hook into on the footpath. I'm concerned about them becoming a hazard because they're there all the time. The screens may not be there, but these little hooky bits are certainly there. Do they have to ask permission to put these screens up, or what's the story?
Yes, Madam Chair, they do have to get permission. So any structures, being erected on the road or on the footpath, whether they're there temporarily or permanently, need to have an approval. There's some within Cambridge which people will probably know well, and that the screens are there most of the time, and it does with the planter boxes and other things that they have there, doesn't present any real risk. But we have had others who put stuff in without permission and then were required to remove it because it wasn't suitable, and they may have left some hooks and things in the pavers and not removed them. But if there's a particular problem area that you're aware of, we could follow that up and try and get that remedied.
Yeah, thank you. And the other thing I was going to ask while we're on it is, people who put tables on goods for sale outside their shops, are they not required? Are they all paying to use the footpath space? I mean, Empire Street was looking possibly crowded the other day down the bottom end. And I just sort of thought, well, everybody's putting all their goods out. Are they paying for the use of the footpath?
Yep, good question. So our public places bylaw allows goods to be displayed on the footpath as long as they're within 1 metre of the, I think that's right from memory, 1 metre of the, adjacent to the shop frontage, and there's still plenty of room on the footpath. So that's permitted by the bylaw without any fee or permit required.
Okay, right. Thank you. Does anybody have any more questions on this one? Yeah. No? No more questions on the fees at all? Mapping? Carapiro domain? Nothing? Cafe tables, we've covered that. Okay. So we need somebody to move that we receive the draft schedule of fees and charges and statement of proposal document and submit to the Waikato District Council schedule of fees and charges for 2022-23. We've got someone who will do this. Don't all rush. Well, I'll move it. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Joe. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Right.
So can I just seek a clarification just there? Where we're moving these resolutions that we're accepting a report and making a submission subsequently. We don't know what's in that submission yet.
No, we don't.
No. Would it be possible just to circulate those submissions by email prior to them being submitted so that we can at least see what's there and either approve or raise objections?
I think that's an excellent idea. And I think if people could, if we could do a round robin email with people saying if there was a particular submission they'd like to work on or to help make the submission, if they could get that round the other board members fairly soon, and then you can get together or come up with something. And that way we should all be able to have a bit of an input. How does that sound, Mike?
It sounds good to me. Just while we've got governance people on the call, is that an acceptable way to go to effectively resolve to make a submission, which we do offline? Is that acceptable?
Yep, that's. I'm sorry, you go, Joe.
Sorry, I was still on mute. Yeah, no, you can. It would be quite good if we could have maybe for future in the recommendations a process for approval of that submission. Maybe that it's approved by the chair in consultation with the board. I think we've done it that way before in the past. That way, then not only do you have someone there with the final approval, but also that you make sure that all of the board members are included, because something like that I think probably would be a better recommendation to pass in the future.
Thank you. That's exactly what we're after. Cheers.
Lovely. Thank you. That sounds good. Okay. So we're still on. So we're happy to receive the draft schedule of fees and charges and to submit to the council fees and charges. Yeah, we're happy to do that. Moving. Seconding.
So, Madam Chair, you moved and Joe seconded this earlier.
We've already done that. All those in favour? Great, thank you. Okay, district work program. Tony's going to talk to us.
Yes, now I'll take your guidance. Did you want me to share the screen? What I was going to do was just run you through our list of plan changes. There are a couple here that will be of interest to the community board. So I'm happy to share the screen if that's useful, or you can just refer to the agenda.
How do we feel? Well, if you want to share the screen, that'd be good.
Share the screen? Okay, I'll give that a go. So hopefully you can see that. So this is our current list of plan changes that we've got on the go. And I just want to run through it because there are some here that will be of interest. So it's in priority order, and on the screen there you've got the top three in terms of the ones that we're going to do first. So we've got plan change 26 and 21, which are companion ones. They both revolve around housing intensification. Plan change 21, you may recall that the government has imposed legislation requiring us as a tier 1 council to do a mandatory plan change. We have to notify that by the 20th of August this year. And that is to enable and permit actually intensification in all residential zones in Te Awamutu and Cambridge. So it's quite significant. It was rushed through, it came without warning, and at our Strategic Policy and Planning Committee on Tuesday, elected members gave us a very clear signal that in any media that goes out, we want to make it very clear that this is not council's plan change, it's one of government's, and that we're reluctantly running it through because it's had massive resource considerations for us. So that's plan change 26. Plan change 21 is one of council's. We're always planning on doing it, but what we've had to do is adjust the scope of 21 and take some of the scope out of 21 and put in 26. The 21 does a couple of things. It's going to look at affordable housing, and probably what we'll do there is try and put some rules in requiring include what's called inclusionary zoning. So what that means is if you've got greenfields that's undeveloped, inclusionary zoning, and Queenstown Lakes District Council looking at doing this, is where you require a certain percentage of those homes to be at a price point which is affordable, however that's defined. Typically it's around 10 to maybe 15%. It's relatively unused in New Zealand. Queensland Lakes is the first council that's looking at doing it. They're doing a plan change at the moment. It's common overseas. And so we are looking at, I guess, taking the opportunity to do that. It also is proposing to intensify growth cells T6, which is between Te Awamutu and Kihikihi, and also C11. So as you come out of Cambridge, on Cambridge Road, you go down the dip past the recycling centre up on the hill on the right, just before the crossroads, is an orchard, which is part of C11. So that's currently zoned for large lot residential. And we got an independent consultant to look at all our large lot zones, and his recommendation was that there's opportunity to intensify that to residential from large lot residential. So that's a piece of work we're doing. And the other component of Plan Change 21 is urban design. So that's strengthening our current urban design provisions in the plan. So they're both pretty big plan changes. There'll be a lot of interest in them. And there'll be obviously a process to go through for submissions and hearings around those. The other one that's in our top priority is Plan Change 17. So what that relates to is Hatapu industrial zones. There's three components of that. One is it's just kind of a mechanical change to align the structure plan with the infrastructure master plan. So that's slightly out of kilter. And it's a relatively straightforward plan change, that one, or component, that one. The second part of Plan Change 17 is to bring forward what we call Growth Cell C9. So at the moment, that's programmed for development post 2035. We've already issued consents, which has gone through a consent process for some of that zone to be converted to industrial. And so the plan really hasn't kept up with the consenting. And so we're looking at bringing that forward to pre-2035. And the other component of Plan Change 17 is that we have a willing landowner who's offered to rezone an additional portion of industrial in the Hatapu area. And council has agreed that we think that we've got enough demand and justification for doing that. So that's the third component we're looking at doing as well. Private Plan Change 20, that relates to the airport. They're looking at a northern extension to the existing northern precinct. That will go through a public process, and we've got independent consultants on board with that one because council has a conflict of being a shareholder. Plan Change 19 is one that I know will be a bit dear to your heart, so that's Carter's Flat. That's in priority 2 just because it's going to go at its own pace. We don't have any sort of hard and fast drivers to get that out, but it's underway. So we've got a consultant, Becca, on board doing that. And the intention there, again, it's relatively straightforward in terms of planning changes. It's really just uplifting the deferred commercial and changing it from current industrial to commercial. And there's a local area plan that's being developed as well. So I can take you through that later on, just in a private session after we close the meeting. Plan Change 22, so that's looking at rezoning some of council land in Anchor Park. 23 is Papakainga. So again, at the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee meeting on Tuesday, it was noted that that's been on our radar to do for some time. It has been deferred. We've got some staff resource and capacity constraints that we're working through at the moment. The group manager of planning did make a commitment that we would go to our executive this Thursday, tomorrow, to try and seek some funding to engage a consultant to bring this one forward. At the moment, we just don't have the staff capacity to progress it. If we can get a consultant on board to help us with that one, then we can bring that forward. And we've got a couple of do next ones down there that we haven't started yet. They're relatively low order ones in terms of, I guess, the scale of changes that we're looking at. But I just did want to take you through that because I think 19 Carter's Flat and 17 will be of interest to you, but some of the others as well. I'll stop sharing and happy to take any questions.
Any questions there for Tony? No.
Yeah, just sorry, Sue, from me.
Yep.
Tony, the Papakainga one, is that going to relate generally to the district, or is that like geographically bound?
No, so that's a Waikato district-wide one. And I guess what we're looking at, so we've already got Papakainga provisions in the district plan. And what we're looking at doing is enabling So they're not perfect because there are some restrictions, and we're looking at more enabling provisions that enable more public climate across the district.
Right. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, we'll move along then. We have somebody who will move that the Cambridge Community Board receive the district plan work program. And do we have a move? Thank you, Jim. Seconder. Thank you, Mike. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Thank you, Tony. We now move to the quarterly report, water services. Hi, Martin.
Hi, good evening, Chair and committee members. I'll just take the report as read and then just go through a few highlights, then happy to answer any questions after that. So as we've seen, of particular note, we've completed the flood hazard mapping and 100 letters have been sent to properties that have been modelled and surveyed that they will be impacted from a 1 in 100 year rainfall event. We've still got 10 properties we're working through a technical review on because they're pretty close to the mark of whether they would be or wouldn't. So we're just doing some more work on those. The flood hazard map viewer is now online, the public flood hazard map viewer. So any members of the public can now go on the GIS online and see if they're in a flood zone or not in the urban environment. The next one, that staff are working on submissions on the proposed new Tomato ROI drinking water regulations. That submission has now been completed and approved by council and been sent off. Physical works commenced this month. So this was dated in March. It's probably more current now as April. On the Lake Tikautu rain gardens, Lakeview Drive stormwater improvements and Shelley Street outfall replacement. I'll talk more about those later on. And the good news is, although it's been a long dry summer, we've got through with no water restrictions across the district. And again, that's really following the significant investment the council has made in water infrastructure over the last 10 years, culminating in the completion of the Parallel Road water treatment plant. Unfortunately, though, the new Parallel water treatment plant was non-compliant for protozoa removal. This was a technical non-compliance from incorrect programming from the new membranes and was not identified during commissioning. That's now been fixed. Section 3.1 is that Tomato ROI and draft compliance rules. So again, there's a list there of some of the new rules, and I say we've put in our submission on them. 3.1.2, the current water supply bylaw is currently under review. It wasn't due until next year, but due to workloads, there's 3 or 4 bylaws due to review next year. We brought this one forward. So that's currently being worked on. Will be out for public consultation shortly. And then next, I think I'm zipping quite quickly through, taking it all as read, and then talk in more detail on the projects, in particular the stormwater projects. So Lakeview Drive, stormwater improvements, we've done some work there to make sure we can maintain the level of service. That work is almost complete now. That was started earlier in March and is almost complete. So that's some good work there. Shelley Street stormwater outlet, that was planned to be started, but due to not being able to get the infrastructure required, needed some large concrete stormwater infrastructure from the manufacturers. They're unable to deliver it in time. So that work will be deferred until next summer. We can only do it in the summer. It's too risky to do it during the winter. So that work's been deferred until next summer. And then Lake Tikautu rain gardens. So that is planned to start after Easter now. And I don't know if you've seen, I think today the signboards went up, and there is a replication of the signboards printed here. Those signboards went up today on the roundabout, and out one set by the church, and one set the other side of the roundabout by the footpath there, where the protesters currently stand. And so once that work starts, all that area will be fenced off. So just an early heads up there that we're not fencing off the protesters. It'll be fenced off for the works to be done. And the rain gardens are there to capture the runoff from the roads, from the break-in mainly, and accelerating that causes contaminants, and they get washed off the road into the stormwater network. The rain gardens will capture those in the first flush and hold them in the rain gardens, and they'll be treated there. And then the cleaner, then water can then get through into the lake. So it's the first step in trying to clean up the lake, and it'll be really, really excited to see them happen. They're our first proper rain gardens in the district. We've got a few we call rain gardens that aren't really. So these will be the first proper ones. And so we're expecting lots of questions from the community, and that's why we've put up the signboards around there. So happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Yes, so I've got one, please.
Yes.
Martin, just 5.5, you've taught me a new word tonight.
Have I? Okay, I might have taught myself when they...
Septage tankered waste. I had to look that up. I figured that was a typo. But just from the rural perspective, that's where our septic tank waste goes. Does Waipa have to accept that? Is my question.
We don't have to, but again, though, all those rural residents are residents of Waipa. And so that's why we provide the facility to receive the septage waste from them. We do have quite a lot of issues with it because the tanker companies are prone to collecting waste from either outside of the area or from industrial areas as well. So we're currently installing a new tracking system, which will hopefully deter that behaviour. When we do get a strong load from an industrial area dump there, it does cause us problems with the treatment plant compliance. It does shock it. So we're really working hard on that but we do provide the service for the district. It'll be hard.
Look, I was seeking not from the point of view of trying to dissuade you from doing it, the opposite. I was seeking reassurance that the service would carry on. So and that is the intention.
Yes, that's most definitely the intention. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very much. And thank you, Martin. Oh, no, Elise has got something. Yes, Elise. Can't hear you.
Rookie, sorry, no, you can hear me. The rain gardens, are they very expensive solutions?
So I think we're installing, around $300,000, $350,000 worth of work for the rain gardens.
Per garden, or that's for
that's for
all these sites?
For these first stage 1 sites,
And are there any more plans to roll this out? Other stormwater exits? I'm not sure what goes into the Waikato River or any other parts around Waipa.
So the plans, so these, the first ones around the top of the lake are at the stage 1. There are stage 2 and 3 is to put rain gardens in further away, which capture the runoff that still gets into that pipe network that goes to the lake. That's stages 2 and 3, which are currently unfunded. And then also we're just we're doing a new. No, we're also just putting in applying for a new stormwater discharge consent, and the expectation from that will be it'll be the quality required will be need to be improved significantly.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, I mean, even not even
Vicky's
just
froze there, I
to
think.
O2. Is any stormwater discharged into the Waikato River?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Am I back?
You're
Okay.
back.
Sorry. Yes, I understand the 3 stages at Lake Tuka O2, but is any stormwater discharged into the Waikato River?
Yes. Yes. And yep. So
And have we got that? Can rain gardens be utilised at those sites, or is that kind of a bit too big a beast?
Yeah, they're too big for rain gardens. They need more, just for the sheer quantum of stormwater that's discharged, they need other more significant treatment, either wetlands or purpose-built treatment facilities.
How is it treated at the moment, our stormwater that goes into the river?
It's not.
Okay.
Yeah. So say our new stormwater consent that we're just applying for will force us to improve the quality of our discharge. We currently meet the consent levels, but the levels are quite low for the contaminants. Yeah.
Is that that new stormwater consent, is that tied up with the Three Waters new legislation, or is that coming in anyway?
That was coming anyway. Our consent was coming up to expire, so we needed a new one, and we're fully aware that the expectation will be we improve the quality significantly of our discharges.
Okay.
Martin, just if I could just add to that, there is a program being worked on at the moment with Mana Whenua, just looking at what opportunities there are for those improvements. So they are just working through that ahead of lodging their consent in June, I think.
Okay. No further questions there for Martin? Okay, would somebody like to move that we receive the Water Services Activity Report? Thank you, Mike. We have a seconder?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Elise. All those in favour? Thank you, Harry. Thanks very much, Martin. Okay. I'm looking forward to the water gardens.
Okay.
We move to the Treasury Report on page 113 to 116.
I'm happy to take any questions if there are any, Madam Chair.
Anybody got any questions? Oh, the only one I had was the pop-up gardens. Are you getting reimbursed properly, Elise, for anything you're spending on these pop-up gardens?
I do have to send Kieran some receipts for compost, which I will do. But other than that, yes, Kieran has been sorting that out for me.
Good.
Yeah. I don't know. We've still got a little bit of money in that. We've only spent $60 of that 300, haven't we? Yeah. Okay.
They're looking good. They're looking good. For those who haven't had a look at the community gardens recently, please go and have a look. They're great. Well done, Elise.
Thank you, Sue.
It's all right. So anything else on the quarterly report that anyone would like to, on the Treasury report that anyone would like to make a comment about? No. Okay. So could we have someone move that it be received, please?
Happy to move, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Alana. Do we have a seconder? Right. Is someone going to seconder?
I think I moved and Alana seconded.
Okay, righto. Elise moved, Alana seconded. All those in favour?
Oh, everyone's on mute, so you can only hear me. You're all on mute.
What, they all get off mute?
You're all on mute, so that's why you can't hear them, Sue. It's just me and Sue having a chat.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Just unmute. Not sure how we tell. No, they're
refusing, Sue.
Oh, well, okay, fine. Thank you.
All right,
okay.
I'll stay on mute, Sue.
Okay, now we've got the return of unused funds.
Madam Chair, this is just a pretty much a dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's, just so that we've got an audit trail. Destination Cambridge was allocated $2,000. They didn't use all of the $2,000. They returned it, I think it was late last year or early this year. So we're just just signing off on it, so that saying that we've received it, the money back, the leftover money back of $1,000.60.
Right.
$60, $1,060.66. Sorry.
Okay. So we need to move that too. Right. Would somebody like to move that?
Thank you to move it, Sue.
Thanks, Mike. Jim, thank you. Second. All those in favour?
All right.
All right, great. Thank you. Inwards correspondence. Page 118 to 122.
So if you recall last month, we received the letter from Robert Walsh, but we did not have a staff response at the time. We've now got a staff response. So
Right.
It's up to the community board as to where they want to go from here.
Does anybody have a comment to make on this?
Yes, so I think the staff response covers it, so happy to approve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was probably about the best thing. I mean, Keats Terrace can be a bit of a rat run, and but then there's an awful lot of rat runs in the town, and it's pretty hard to. So stuff. I think the response is fine, and
Sorry, Madam Chair. Does the 10 million over 10 years still count when we just discussed that there's not 10 million of funding today in the annual plan? It's actually only 3 million that's applicable to Cambridge. I just wonder if we want to make sure we're giving them accurate figures, and based on our conversations today, the figure was more accurately 3 million for Cambridge, because obviously funding for Te Awamutu won't help Mr. Walsh.
True. Yes.
I think they're still really hoping to get to the 10 million though.
Yeah, but it doesn't exist like it's not in the budget because they don't have that supportive funding. That's the goal.
Yeah.
But up to you guys. I just thought I'm just that based on our conversation today, that figure isn't potentially as accurate as well, I'm sure we'd all like it to be 10 million, but
yes,
there's actually not 10 million, there's only 3 million that can be used at the moment.
Yes, it's a good call out, Elise. It's good someone's on the ball, but it does say council has budgeted up to 10 million.
Yeah.
10 million. They're short on the funding, so technically they're correct, but it's a good call out because it is that's putting a positive spin on the situation.
It's maybe over promising what is actually we can actually deliver on, but if everyone's happy with that, then that's fine.
Okay, right. So where did we put that? Okay, so we've received that. Can we have a mover for that, or do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Alana. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second, Sue.
Thanks, Joe. All those in favour? All right. Right, now we get to the exciting bit. Really exciting bit. Alana, Autumn Festival.
Yes, so the short story competition and the photo competition both went really well. We're having a little prize giving next week for the winners, which will also be an opening for an exhibition at the eyesight of the photography entries. So it'd be great if people can get along and check that out while that's happening. So that'll be from next Wednesday onwards at the eyesight, and all based around architecture in Waikato. So no doubt you'll see the winning photos coming out in the newspapers and that kind of thing as well.
Super. Okay, thank you for that. Jim, Chamber.
I've been working on the they have been working on the quarry transport through the trucks going through Cambridge, putting in a submission. There's been quite a bit of work done on that lately.
Okay.
And just trying to get the business world back up and running and getting events organised, kicking everything back into action again.
Okay, thank you. Owen, Community Arts Council.
No updates of this one just yet.
Right, thank you. Information Centre, Jim.
No, they've changed their times to be the same time as community board, so I'm...
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's not very convenient, is it?
Well, it starts half an hour later, so...
All right.
Yeah.
Mike, the Safer Community Charitable Trust.
Yeah, okay. So at a recent meeting, nothing of note that I need to pass on, but it did generate a couple of questions, which I've been asked to get back to them about, which I couldn't answer. We've lost most of our council staff now, but maybe you guys can help me out. First of all, was a report that's been a whole lot more fly tipping. For those of you townies, that's when townies come out and hurl their plastic bags over our fences. Apparently the transfer station in Cambridge is closed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a little while.
Yeah. What's the deal there?
Yeah. I'd like to know that.
Apparently whoever runs it, is it EnviroWaste or Waste Management? They can't afford to keep it open. It's just not worth them economically. I don't know how I know that. I think I read it in the paper. It's an economic decision to keep it closed for now. Which is inconvenience. People have to go to Hamilton to use the tip. Yeah. I don't know if we can do anything about that. It's quite inconvenient.
It is very inconvenient. My husband was moaning about it last weekend. What's the council going to do about it? He said.
Well, it's privately owned, isn't it? So I don't.
Yeah, but is it a council-funded service or not?
Certainly was. There was council. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you tell us about it.
No, that's I can't recall what the reasoning was for it to be closed at the moment, but
I think there's quite a bit of upgrading that needs to be done to the facility around health and safety and things like that.
And they don't want to spend money.
That sounds. No, I don't know. I thought they were doing that.
It's not sounding positive at the moment from what I've seen.
The last I read it, they weren't actually making the upgrades, which was why it was.
Certainly a lot of flack on Facebook.
Hey, so Gary, who should I seek an answer from in council?
Waste really probably comes under Brian. We can come back to you with that. Mike, get a bit more clarification.
Cool. And okay, thanks. The second question was to do with the council bylaw on boy races. Sorry, Gary.
I've had just a note that there are other businesses in Cambridge might be an option, such as Cambridge bin hire. I
don't think that's going to help the fly tippers.
No, probably not.
And it is quite expensive.
There were quite a few complaints that it had got too expensive and people weren't wanting to pay that anyway. They would prefer to drive to Hamilton because the dump in Hamilton was cheaper.
Yeah.
So I guess it was self-perpetuating. It wasn't getting enough use because people viewed it as expensive. There are alternative options. Yeah, you can get a skip, you can get a bag, you can get another empty on your wheelie bin. So there are other options. It's not good enough that people are just dumping it in the rural areas.
Well, through you, Madam Chair, just in relation to my as part of the Lions Club, there's been a huge increase of rubbish being dumped there at nights, which your group are keeping an eye on when they're out in their car.
Are or aren't?
They are.
Good. Yep.
Yeah. So really, we need to do something. Needs to be done about opening up the transfer station or whatever it is again, because it's inconvenient and nobody wants to have to drive to Hamilton. Nobody wants to pay a fortune to have somebody come take it away. And you get some people who literally cannot afford to have their rubbish taken away.
Yeah.
So,
and also people just need to think a bit more about the waste they're creating.
Yeah, but you get somebody who's perhaps, getting rid of a pile of garden rubbish. Once or twice a year, they chop their trees and stuff. But
garden rubbish shouldn't be going to landfill anyway.
Well, it's got to go
somewhere. Where does it go then?
Well, like Greenscape and the other one out Hautapu, that's where you should be taking your green waste. It definitely should not go to landfill. And I believe that's one of the things that's being covered in the government recycling and waste reviews at the moment. That is up for consultation.
Certainly Greenscapes and Florida, I think, both take green waste.
Yeah.
Right.
And sorry, just I think we're done there, are we, Sue, on that one?
Yep.
Just my second question was to do with the council boy racer bylaw. The question was what extra powers were the council trying to achieve through that? And I couldn't answer that. Who can anyone help me on that?
Sorry, which one was that, Mike? I just missed that.
There was some council bylaw being changed to try and combat the boy racer situation, and it was seeking clarification on that, and I couldn't answer it. Can anyone here or point me in the right direction?
Yeah, certainly it was to give the police more teeth to deal with those sort of boy racer type situations. Can't, off the top of my head, just can't point to the exact provision of it, but we can certainly come back and give you that as well. I don't know, do you have that, Kieran? Or?
No, I think they've just been in the early stages of kind of looking at what amendments might be made to the bylaw and what powers they could use. So we could certainly get in touch with the people that are working on that to look at which particular powers and parts that they're changing.
Yeah, but just to clarify, it is to give the police powers.
Yeah,
so
not
they need
council.
the powers, not council officers. And I'm sure the police have asked for those powers through the bylaw.
By a bylaw. So do we have bylaws that empower the police to do things?
Yeah, some of that enforcement can only be done by police.
Okay. I think particularly in relation to the traffic side of things, more than the other bylaws.
Okay. So who should I just seek clarification from on that? Can you point me in the right direction to the right people, please?
Oh, well, we can come back to you in terms of we can get in touch with Strategy and Legal Counsel and kind of ask them that question in terms of what the changes are that they're proposing and get an email back to you on that one.
Thank you. That'd be great. I'm done, Sue.
Yeah, just to go back to the earlier one on Enviro Waste, Mike. So we have traditionally paid a grant to Enviro Waste to support the longer opening hours of that, but they're re-looking at what their business offering is, and the grant stopped once the facility closed, just to be clear on that. I'm obviously getting some help from a friend.
I was surprised that a friend was watching.
Yeah, there's one.
Oh, that's good. Joe, social services.
Yeah, nothing really to report, only they have the new general manager, which is Gabrielle Bryn. So I'll be meeting her at the next meeting. And that's it.
Lovely, thank you. The Tree Trust, they are delighted with the extra bit of dirt that they've got now where the horses used to graze. They're planting and they've got room to park their cars. They've also been very busy going through some of the areas around Lake Taikutu that they've planted in the past and having a good tidy up. And they've always got plans for extra planting. So well done, Tree Trust. Wastewater treatment plant. Who's doing that?
Oh, sorry, that's me. Nothing hasn't met. It's only on 6 monthly meetings now.
Great. Okay. Historical Society, they have a new manager at the museum at the moment. She seems very efficient, and she's already reorganising the way the offices and the workrooms where they have people doing stuff like collating all the information out of newspapers and things like that. But yeah, she's got off to a good start, so hopefully it'll continue. Elise, your gardens.
Yes, I did send an email around to everyone with some photos of our autumn planting day, but for the purposes of the public meeting, we had our autumn plant up 2 Sundays ago, which was really well attended by the community. The Froud Reserve is looked after by the Little Sparrows Early Childhood Centre, and Caro really mobilised the community so well. The kids went to the leaflet drop in the community to invite the families to come and participate in the planting. So they had a huge number of people there helping out, which was really cool. The Shelley Street, Thompson Street site, our existing guardian actually had to go overseas. So I put the call out on Facebook and had a really positive result from the community. And now got 3 guardians, 3 women who are overseeing that garden, which is wonderful. And they've been watering it and tending to it and doing some additional planting, which is great. Then there was the Berm Garden on Williams Road. Joe was attending that one, and Alana was there as well. And they extended their garden, added an extra bed into the berm as well. So it's really positive. We've got someone who's put their hand up to host another berm garden, but we just need to get council approval about that. And then I've also been in touch with Matt Johnston from the Parks team regarding a patch of land in Cambridge North, which council doesn't have a necessarily defined purpose for yet, which actually could be a potential site for a more permanent, even though it's a pop-up garden, but a more permanent style installation of an edible garden there. So there could be opportunity for us to get some funding from the Lions. Have already reached out to me in the past and said they had some funding they'd be happy to support for our project. So whether or not we can do some raised beds there with some paths around it, that's quite exciting. So it's kind of gathering some momentum. Obviously, winter is a bit of a quiet time, so we'll hopefully aim to get this additional berm garden installed this season, provided we get the okay from council. If not, we'll then just look to spring to either look at the additional berm garden or indeed this 5th site out in Cambridge North.
That's great. Thank you. Okay. Lekanwa City Working Group. Alana?
Yes, so the RSA has arranged an event on Monday that kind of has 3 different purposes to it. One is the outgoing RSA president and a presentation to them. The second is a signing of an agreement essentially between the RSA and their equivalent in France. So they'd had thought to hold it in Cambridge because of our Lukenwa connection. And there's also the presentation of 2 amazing poppy bowls from the RSA to the Cambridge Lukenwa Friendship Association. One of them, the intention is to send over to France, to Lukenwa, once the museum is up and running there.
So that
absolute works of art.
That is the national RSA, isn't it? That's doing
Yes.
that. Yes, not the local RSA. This is
No, the local RSA is involved, but it's the national RSA, yeah.
Yeah. So this is quite an important event happening at the town hall. So if you see people doing things with flags and things around the town hall, lunchtime on Monday, you know what it is. Okay. Buhoro?
Buhoro, yes. At the moment, mostly just working on the online content side of things. Catherine at the museum has been very helpful with that, going back into the archives and finding a lot of old newspaper articles about when the relationship with Buhoro first began, and the story of that and how it progressed. So I've been doing posts on that recently. So yeah, quite an interesting thing to look into. So if you're interested in the history of that, it's a good way to have little snippets about it.
Now we've already done the list. It seems to be listed twice there, but I think we've done that. Elwyn, what's happening?
Yes, well, council's busy. Lots of meetings, and certainly the annual plan has had a lot of attention. There will be submissions and the follow-up on that as to the assessment of what the community would like to see go forward in our annual plan. The webinars have been reasonably successful as a way of engaging with the community. It's probably not as successful as when you do face-to-face, but we've just had to accept that this is the way it's going to be, and we can't push it aside. This is it. We're still in Zoom meetings ourselves. We probably won't come out maybe until end of April. But that's hopefully when we do get to be face to face and have people talks. Yeah, it's super busy. There's just a lot going on, but we're getting through it. Interesting in the budgets, and as you've seen through the discussions we've had tonight, it's quite challenging what the economy is doing, the interest rates, etc. Things like Waikato is dropping out their support in that package of roading, etc. That's sort of just how they drop the ball, and you have to pick it up and keep going. So yeah, there's some challenging times, but yeah, good team, great staff, really go well. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Owen. Right, now we've got a couple of late items, but the next meeting will be at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 27th of April. So
yes, Madam Chair, that'll be when you'll be going over your discretionary fund allocations.
Yeah, that's
Do we know if that'll be a Zoom meeting or a real in-person meeting, Kieran and Sue?
Oh, it would be good if it was a real in-person meeting. But
fantastic.
Can't see any login.
Yeah.
No, I think we're not due till when's that one, the 27th?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not due to review until it was another month we were in virtual, so we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll obviously keep you updated if there's any changes.
This whole month of April's in virtual, Joe?
Yep. I can't remember exactly which date we were reviewing it. I think it might have been council at the end of the month, just at the moment. But as soon as there is any change or any kind of decision to reaffirm to stay virtual, we'll make sure that we email that information out to you.
That would be good. Okay, thank you. The rural tour. We've all had the letter from Kieran with the dates. So can we everybody's received it, I presume, and so we just need to receive the report and to confirm that Saturday the 7th and the 14th Saturday the 14th of May for our rural tour. Is everybody happy with that? Yep.
I did send Kieran an email. I'm available for the 1st, but it'll just depend on I'm on call for the coroner the second weekend. So
okay. Yeah. So I think it's always good to get out there and talk to the people out in the different communities. So we'll let people know more as we go. Karen, we're going to invite the representatives from the regional council.
We do every year, yes.
Yeah, we'll make sure we do that because it's always good to have their input as well. Okay, right. So I move that we receive the late item report about it and confirm Saturday the 7th and the 14th and the Saturday the 14th of May 2022 for the Cambridge Community Board Rural Tour. Okay, I move that. Do we have a seconder?
I second.
Thanks, Alana. All those in favour?
Aye.
Right, we're down to the late item, my report. And we've got the recommendation that the Cambridge Community Board reimburse the council for, not sure what that figure is, but Karen will tell us, plus GST from its uncommitted discretionary funds to cover the cost of the lighting of the Cambridge Town Hall and clock tower in support of Ukraine. So,
so Madam Chair, the initial account is for $686 and something or other cents. I thought I had it written down here, sorry, but I don't. Just bear with me and I'll confirm that. So $686.96 plus GST. for the full cost of getting those lights, getting the additional lights and filters down to get the colouring that is on display at the moment. I understand, Madam Chair, that you've had some conversations with some people and they have indicated that they would like to contribute, but at this stage we don't have any finalised figures, do we?
No, so
I guess there's two things that the community board can do. We could change the recommendation to reimburse council up to the $686.96 plus GST, with any unused funds returned to uncommitted, or the community board could choose to just set an amount.
Right. Because we've got some people who are willing to Advantage Construction, I believe, have said they would contribute, and there's been some others who've said they would contribute. So we need to follow up on those people. That's been through the Chamber of Commerce, so we need to make sure that we get that money in. But we certainly, they've done a very good job, the students, in raising the money to send to the Ukraine, and this whole write-up was their initiative, and so they're to be commended for it. So we'll get that one. So can we move as Karen has suggested? Karen, would you repeat that, please?
So there are two choices. Option number one is that the Cambridge Community Board reimburse council up to $686.96 plus GST from its uncommitted discretionary funds to cover the cost of lighting of the Cambridge Town Hall and Clock Tower in support of Ukraine, with any unused funds returning to uncommitted, or that the Cambridge Community Board can reimburse council a set amount, blank plus GST. So it's either or.
I'm happy to move the
please,
first
Karen.
Did somebody say they were happy to move it?
I was happy to move the first option one. I suspect most people would be happy with one, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So up to $686.96.
Yeah.
And any unconfirmed return to any unused return to unconfirmed.
Yeah.
Cool.
How are we following up with the businesses that said that they would contribute to that?
We are following up with them at the moment, yeah.
So you're in touch with them, sir?
Yeah, I will be in touch. I haven't been in touch with some of them, but yes, we are certainly getting in touch with them because, and I've been talking to Chamber of Commerce as well because they were part of it. Yeah, so that's and we've also had quite a sizable discount from Stina Morrow again, who's been really brilliant. So I think it's been good, and it coincided really well with the fact that we've now got a list of suitable occasions for lighting up the tower. So that's good, and it's been well worth it.
Yeah, I just know that those businesses / organisations have already been acknowledged as contributing to it. So
we have to make sure. So we have to make sure that we receive the money. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Madam Chair, Mike has moved the motion that the Community Board reimburse council up to $686, but we have not got a seconder at this stage.
Thank you, Alana. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? No. Right, carried. Okay. Where are we up to now? Here we are. Board members report from me. We've done that. Just going through everything. Right. And now we can close the meeting.
Madam Chair, would you like to receive the chairperson's report?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to receive my report? Yes. I will move that my report be received. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.